A trick with this as well, though, is, if you set a long enough time horizon, you can fall in the trap of just thinking linearly. So I think the trouble with some of this is, let's just go back to that $100,000 income replacement target. You can take $100,000 in 10 years and then kind of reverse engineer that, cut that into 10 years, and you get like, okay, this is how much income I need to accrue every single year. And you just see it as a straight line.
Yeah. So in year one, I need to create $10,000 passive income. In year two, I need to create $20,000 passive income. And in year three, I need to create $30,000 passive income. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, which is an awesome start, right? But you can imagine, firstly, the end position, the end of that trend line needs to be correct, because the whole plan depends on what the end goal is. But it's also it's a good starting point, because that's kind of your average line. Like, that's kind of like, over the 10 years, we want to sit around here. But it's also not in reality how it really works. Like, it's in reality, this really works more an exponential kind of process where, you might be relatively flat for a few years, but then it all picks up, and compounding growth and rent increases and inflation and whatnot and everything, it picks up exponentially, and you get that more curved kind of chart. And I think people really struggle to think about it in that way, because they just think, well, I'll take this piece of the pie and then I'll just cut it up into how many years, and they're the pieces of the pie, and that's just what I need to find.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on a really great point, because human beings inherently really struggle to conceptualize exponential anything, right? Exponentiality is not a normal way for the human brain to think. The human brain is programmed to think linearly, right? And it's really interesting, right? Because Warren Buffett, for example, right, one of the richest people in the world, or one of the most successful investors, all of that kind of stuff, all he's done is compound continuously, right? And so he didn't start with loads of cash, he started with a small amount of money, compounded over time, just kept at it. And interestingly as well, I was reading a book a while ago called The One Thing, and it's written by a guy called Gary Keller with Jay Papasan. It's awesome book. But Gary Keller, his story is quite interesting, because he owns a real estate company called Keller Williams Real Estate. I think they're the largest real estate company in the world. And it's quite interesting, because I can't remember how many $1 billion that business is worth, but I think it's like 40 billion or something. Like it's whatever it is huge. And I remember reading the book at the time, and I remember reading that he started the business in, I think it was 1986, which was the year that I was born. And then now the business is worth like 40 billion or whatever that number is. Don't quote me on that exactly. And I was like, holy hell, how do you do that? Like, how do you get from he started the business with no money, just one guy schlepping door to door, and he took it from that to, let's say it's 40 billion over the same period of my life. And I was thinking, hang on a second, how do you do that? And if you slice it up incrementally, or if you slice it up in a linear fashion or an incremental fashion, it didn't really make any sense. But I reverse engineered it on a compounding basis and worked out, he'd just grown the business by, 20 to 40% every year, but he'd done it, and he'd started from basically no money, and he just compounded over time, and now it's worth, billions and billions of dollars, right? And so the same kind of thinking applies whenever we're talking about anything to do with real estate, because we are looking at exponential growth, not just in the value of the properties, but also in things like rent and all of this kind of stuff. So breaking through that is really hard. And that's, I think, where people get stuck when they're thinking about property and when they're thinking about cash flow.